pretty sure this is gonna end up being a separate video since getting the bad end took a really long time. So welcome back to Everlasting Summer. We're gonna be going for the good end now, which means we get to grab the things that we didn't, such as going into the mines with Lena. I won't have to go there alone, will I? Oh, good, Demetrina thought for a moment. You may be right. We'll go together tomorrow. For the last few minutes, I noticed that Lena had a strange look on her face. As if she wanted to say something, but didn't dare to. The pioneers started to disperse as if they had forgotten about Alisa and the explosion. Even our leader seemed to calm down and didn't react when the wannabe terrorists left the square, hiding behind Ulyana. We should go too. Yeah. Night quickly fell on the camp. I keep thinking that I can skip over stuff, but apparently not. There's only a brief moment between the first rays of the setting sun till complete darkness here in the south, or maybe in this world. You don't have enough time to enjoy the variety of the sunset colors. It was too early to go to bed, but the leader confidently walked to her cabin as if mentally dragging me with her. Olga Demetrina, I'll take a little walk. Okay. She looked at me intently, but didn't find any reason to object, shrugged her shoulders, and kept walking. I went back to the square. I didn't really want to look closely at the trivial damage done to the Genda statue. It was the exact center of the camp. If you don't know where to go, you should start from there. I sat on the bench and looked to the west. I wondered if the earth here revolves on its axis as it should. Or either every time I attempt to skip. Or whether there was an actual north or south. It's hard to say. At this time, I didn't have any ideas on how to check the fundamental laws of nature. Hi. Lena appeared next to me as if from nowhere. Hi, can't sleep? She looked at me in surprise. Well, yes, it is still early.
May I sit?
Yeah, of course, sit down. I moved over a little, but just a little. Gave her like an inch or two of space to sit down. Saying a little was in fact an understatement. I actually shifted myself to the end of the bench. Don't want to touch her, she got cooties.
Thanks.
Lena sat and looked at the sky as if she'd forgotten about me.
It's sad.
What is sad?
That Shurik disappeared.
Yeah, things aren't too good. She was as calm as usual, keeping silent most of the time. She blushed and felt embarrassed only when she had to speak or do something. That same silence, which could be seen as awkward by many people, including myself, was quite natural for her. I could hardly imagine Lena making an effort to carefully choose the right words to start a conversation, or make a good remark, trying not to look stupid, or alternatively trying not to look as rude as Alisa. I just wasn't able to compare her to anyone. She was just content with being herself. Does that mean that my attempts to start a conversation with her could be seen as rude? That the expression become friends could be interpreted as an intrusion into her private life? But something in this girl attracted me. Maybe it was her mysteriousness, and she certainly wasn't lacking in appearance or feminine charms. I didn't have any answer for that. That was why I still hadn't been openly accused of being annoying. I'm sure he'll be found. How can you escape from a submarine? Lena didn't seem to appreciate the joke. No one ever appreciates my jokes. This camp must seem like a large submarine to me only.
I hope so.
Tomorrow, Olga Dimitrina will call the police. They'll find him for sure. What is police?
And what if, during the night?
Her expression grew sad. What if something happens to him? Alone at night in the forest, anything could happen.
He must be lonely.
No one forced him to go there.
What if he just got lost?
He shouldn't go walking in the forest alone.
You don't have any pity for him at all. Shurik may be sitting there all alone.
In the darkness, hearing voices of Semyon and only Semyon. Of course I pity him. I felt ashamed. In any case, Lena was right. A person was missing.
Anything could happen during the night.
We aren't seriously going to go search for him now, are we? She didn't reply, still looking somewhere far away, where the last rays of the sun shined over the tops of the old trees as if trying to leave a bit of its warmth with the people. Do you really think that roaming around the forest in the dark is a good idea?
Probably not.
For some reason, I was sure that was exactly what she thought. Recently, I seem to be starting to understand Lena even without words more often. No. And she seemed to be influencing me psychologically, making me agree with her. Lena's silence was more informative than any chatter or attempts at persuasion. They looked for him during the day already.
Everywhere?
She stopped watching the sunset and looked at me. I don't know, I think everywhere.
What about the old camp?
For the first time, her words sounded self-assured and not vague or indifferent. Where is it? I have no idea.
Electronic told us.
Well, if you trust him. I grinned stupidly, but Lena kept looking at me seriously. Sure, if it's not too far.
So, you do want to go?
Of course I don't. We can, if it's just there and back quickly.
Okay.
Lena smiled and gave me a flashlight, which appeared from nowhere. I still really want pancakes. Yes, that'll be useful. Does this mean she'd prepared beforehand? And nothing was up to me? I sighed as if doomed and headed to the forest with her. Night fell on the camp. We walked slowly. Lena was next to me, near but not too close. It was strange, but it looked like she wasn't afraid of anything. Moreover, she didn't seem to be bothered much about what we were doing, as if we weren't walking in the forest at night, but just watching a movie with other people playing leading roles. Actually, Electronic said that the old camp was not too far, and if we walked straight to it, then it would be hard to get lost. After a few minutes, I was completely unsure that we were walking straight, and after a few more, it started to seem that it would be a miracle for us to even get out of here. But I didn't want to lose face before Lena, so I started to walk cheerfully. The forest was full of silent, flickering shadows and gleaming moonbeams. The grass quietly rustled under our feet and the branches rustled over our heads. Old oaks stood next to the young britches. Large mushrooms emerged from under the latter, as if taking off their large hats in salute. On any other day, or rather any other time of day, it would have looked really beautiful. It may be safe at night too, but nevertheless I shuddered at each gust of wind.
Look.
Lena pointed forward. I rubbed my eyes and saw a gap between the trees. In a minute we were in a rather large clearing. In the middle of it stood a building which looked like a village school or a kindergarten. The paint was falling off the walls, there were several holes in the roof, like the aftermath of a bombing, and the glassless windows looked at us sadly and a little threateningly. Get out of here! It was not a very pleasant sight. I couldn't remember how I'd imagined this place a moment ago. It was like all the images had been erased from my memory, replaced by this depressing graveyard view. Well, it's creepy. Lena was still standing silently, but a natural expression of fright appeared on her face.
Do you think he's in there?
I have no idea. If I was Shurik, then a haunted house would be the last place I'd hide in. But he's a science man. He doesn't believe in ghosts.
Shall we go?
I didn't manage to answer. The moon appeared from behind the clouds and illuminated the clearing with new colors. Actually, in one color, the white of the grave. I could see more clearly the distant trees, the mist shrouding them. It felt like the temperature dropped several degrees, making me shiver.
Are you afraid?
Lena asked calmly. Honestly? She smiled almost impersonally and took my hand. It would have caused a storm of emotions in any other situation, but at that time it felt like a basic necessity. We slowly walked to the building. Walking through the playground, I pushed a merry-go-round, causing it to creak nastily as it made a half-turn. Why would you touch it? Lena shivered and grasped my hand tighter. Sorry, I probably just remembered my childhood. Probably.
Did you like merry-go-rounds?
Yeah, actually, I don't know, I don't remember. Probably. All children like them. I don't even know what a merry-go-round is.
I didn't like them.
Why?
I got dizzy when I rode them.
No wonder if you spin too fast.
I like swings more.
Well, you can get dizzy on a swing as well.
But why would you?
I don't know. That conversation had distracted me a little, and I stopped worrying myself about everything, about Shurik, about our night trip, about Lena. After all, this world is not so alien. Finally, we reached the doors. The inside of the old camp building reminded me of a kindergarten, the one I attended in my childhood. At first glance, even the room arrangement was the same. Shurik!
Shurik!
Grave-like silence replied to us. Even the wind outside had calmed down. Looks like nobody's here.
We should check anyway.
Lena's courage still didn't cease to surprise me. Or should I say, her lack of normal self-preservation instincts didn't. I don't know if this behavior is strange for this girl or not. Okay, let's do it. We thoroughly examined all the rooms of the old camp. I even inspected the attic. There were signs that people had visited this place everywhere, newspapers, empty bottles, and other garbage, but there was no sign of Shurik. We returned to the hall where we had started our search. What should we do next?
I have no idea.
Lena sat on the steps and stared at her feet. I think we should go back. I began carefully. It's late, and... Can just the two of us really search the entire forest for him?
You might be right.
She looked sad, and her expression let me know that the search was not over yet. Well, I am. I waved my hand in resignation and sat next to her. We should think about the worst outcome.
Are you saying?
No, but are there any wild animals around?
I doubt it.
Lena calmed down at once. He may be sleeping somewhere. He'll wake up in the morning and return to the camp.
Yes, of course.
I jumped to my feet and started to walk in circles around the hall. I really wanted to leave this place to get out of the forest, but it was as if Lena's behavior was keeping me here. I wanted to go on trying to persuade her, but then I noticed something on the floor. It was a trap door. There were little heaps of garbage and dust around it. It must have been opened recently. Look.
Do you think Shurik is there?
Lena squatted and carefully pulled on the hatch's handle. I still kept tripping up. Oh my god. It may not be Shurik, but someone surely used it recently. I had already regretted finding that damn gate to hell.
Let's check it out.
The trapdoor wasn't very heavy, so you could open it without much effort. I directed the flashlight into it and saw a ladder going down a couple of meters. Looks like a cellar.
Let's go down.
I looked at Lena for a few moments, trying to understand what was on her mind. Did she have a craving for adventure like Uliana? So where is her youthful spirit then? Or maybe she just went a bit nuts. Lena didn't seem like a crazy person. But anyway, who even said she really is a human and you can evaluate her with human behavioral logic? She's actually an alien. That thought should have scared me, but somehow I didn't pay it any attention among the millions of other thoughts. Some of them were more important. For example, what could be down there? I climbed down and looked around. Everything's okay. After I made sure that there was nothing to be afraid of, I called Lena. We stood in the long corridor, which certainly wasn't a cellar. Its architecture more resembled KGB dungeons or a subway maintenance tunnel. I don't know which would be better. There were countless wires along the walls, fastened by metal hooks every half a meter. There were lamps under the ceiling covered by rusted shades. Crumbled concrete crunched under our feet unpleasantly.
Shall we go?
Lena, without any emotion. Where to? There?
Well, yes, what if Shurik is there?
What would he be doing there? In any case, I wasn't really able to refuse her today, so we forgot about our fear and headed to the darkness. Lena walked next to me holding my hand. The silence of the dungeon was interrupted only by the sound of our steps and water dripping from the ceiling. We moved forward slowly, maybe too slowly. I suddenly felt a surge of claustrophobia. I gritted my teeth and squeezed the torch, but loosened my grip at once, fearful of breaking our only source of light. Lena kept silent, and her silence seemed louder than any words. I started to fear. Say something.
Door.
What?
There's a door.
She pointed forward. We came to a massive metal door with a biohazard sign.
Looks like a bomb shelter. Yeah, I heard something about it.
Was that Lena or was that Semyon?
Oops.
Looks like a bomb shelter.
Yeah, I'd heard something about it.
Why is it here?
I have no idea. Maybe because of the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Cuban? I estimated the approximate time of constructing the camp. Makes sense. However, building a bomb shelter here was like building an airport at... what? In northern... no, blah, 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 blah. Words from the UK. It wasn't deep enough and too far from civilization. The door wheel dully creaked. I had to push it with all my strength before it turned a couple times. I made up my mind and opened the door with difficulty. We entered the room, which seemed to be the main living quarters. There were some beds, cases, some scientific equipment. They had been thoroughly prepared for a nuclear apocalypse. We didn't find any signs of Shurik there, though.
Look.
Lena was holding a flare gun and smiled. Why would I need it?
To fight monsters.
There's no monsters here. At least, I wanted to believe that.
If you say so.
I guarantee it. I didn't want to upset her, so I tucked the flare gun into my belt. It might come in handy. We thoroughly searched the room once again. There were 2 exits. The first was a door we had entered, and the other one was another door exactly the same in the left wall. For a moment I felt excitement, the urge to reach the end of this labyrinth and to learn what prize awaited me there. Pancakes. However, this surely wasn't a computer game and there was no option to save. That's what you think.
Maybe with this?
Lena offered me a rather big crowbar. No, I'll give it a try without it first. However, the door didn't want to budge. It only creaked nastily and the door wheel didn't turn a millimeter. Okay, give it to me. It was too easy with the crowbar. In the end, the obstacle collapsed, hitting the floor loudly. The hinges were rusted completely through. I pointed the flashlight into the passageway. There was a corridor just like the one we had come here through.
Let's go.
It was like Lena was constantly driving me on. Where are you rushing to?
Me? I'm not.
She blushed in confusion. Again, what should I make of her? First she doesn't fear a thing, then she gets lost after a word. You look like you don't fear anything.
I don't know. What should I fear? You'll protect me anyway.
She added, barely audible. So Lena is counting on me. She believes in me no matter what. It's possible. Stupid, naive, but possible. I knew clearly that I couldn't protect anyone, even myself. Nothing is up to me in this world. The powers that brought me here could do anything. That didn't exactly mean that inevitable death awaited me in the end of the tunnel. It could be lying in wait anywhere in this camp. Let's go. I tried to walk faster, but Lena seemed to not be bothered by that, and she easily kept pace with me. This corridor was exactly the same as the previous one. In every last detail. There was nothing shocking about it, but at some point I got the feeling that we were walking in circles. The flashlight in my hand started to tremble visibly. The spot of light jumped all over the walls and the floor, and suddenly it lit up a rather big hole. The hole wasn't too deep, and down below we could see rails.
What's down there?
Looks like a mine.
Shall we have a look?
Why not go further along the corridor?
I don't know. I think we should go down there.
I estimated the height. It'd be possible to pull ourselves out. Okay, let's check it out. I jumped down the hole and helped Lena to get down. It really was a mine. I wonder what they could have mined here. What minerals are there in this area?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, stupid question. Looks like there's none now. We headed into the darkness. It was hard to walk because I couldn't choose where I trod, wobbly wooden planks or uneven ground. I wasn't able to stick closer to the wall either. The narrowness of the tunnel forced us to stay between the rails, and I didn't want to let go of Lena's hand. Finally, we reached a fork. Just great.
Where should we go?
Where? I'm not certain that we'll be able to get out of here at all, especially if we're going to play Pac-Man.
Play what?
Never mind, we'll get lost.
What if there's an exit too?
There may be one, and what if there isn't?
So should we go back?
I bit my lip, it bled, and yelled as loud as I could. Shurik! The loud echo rebounded from every direction at once. Soil even fell from the ceiling in some places. See?
Then I will go on alone.
What? I grinned stupidly. All alone? Where to?
We must find Shurik. He may be...
Lena blushed at once and stared at the ground. No, that won't do. If we go together.
Okay, then let's go.
She smiled and took my hand. How does she manage that? But first we should. I took a sharp stone from the ground and scratched across on one of the beams which supported the walls. Now we'll know where we started. Finally, the tunnel had led us into a hall with a high ceiling. Although it hardly could be called a hall, it seemed something was mined here. Maybe coal or gold. The walls had been cut by pickaxes or pneumatic drills. This place was pitch black, so our only salvation was the flashlight. If it breaks, it's unlikely we'll get out of here. I noticed a red piece of cloth in its light. It was a pioneer neckerchief. Shurik was obviously here somewhere. Shurik! Shurik!
Shurik! Shurik!
Only echoes answered us.
He must not be too far away, since we found the scarf here.
Frankly speaking, I was mostly wondering where here actually was. Where could he have gone from here? There were no other exits from this room. Certainly it was possible that there were other places in this tunnel we haven't visited yet. That means we have to keep searching for him. Around the next turn, a wooden door appeared in the light. At least it's something.
What?
At least it's not another fork.
What's in there?
We don't have any choice but to check it out. I strongly pulled the handle and opened the door. There was a room behind it which might be one of the maintenance rooms for the bomb shelter. Empty bottles and cigarette butts were scattered everywhere. The walls were all covered with scribbles. So that means there's another exit from here. I didn't want to believe that the people who had left all that had come the same way we did. Sadly, Shurik wasn't here. Wait, what? He's not here? Oh. I slid down the wall to the floor. We must have been everywhere now.
Not everywhere.
Lena pointed to a door in the corner. It looked similar to the one leading into the bomb shelter. There probably should be an exit, as you said.
Shall we go?
Let's rest for a moment.
Okay.
Lena sat next to me very close and took my hand.
It's alright.
What do you mean?
That we haven't found Shurik?
We should think about getting out ourselves.
We'll get out.
Yeah, I probably remember the way. Or at least I thought that I remembered it.
I'm not afraid at all.
She suddenly said after a short pause. That's good.
Because I'm with you.
Suddenly there came a noise from behind the door to the mine. I jumped up at once and started looking for something that I could use as a weapon. The noise of heavy footsteps was getting closer. Finally the door opened and Shurik appeared from behind it. In the silence I froze, staring at him.
There you are. Did you think you could hide from me?
What?
Did you think I wouldn't find you? But I did.
He wasn't insane, that was for sure. His face was distorted by a scary grimace. His eyes gleamed behind his glasses. The missing pioneer held a metal rod in his hand. Are you mad? It's us.
Yeah, I can see it's you.
He took a couple steps toward us. I instinctively shielded Lena.
Did you think you could make a fool of me, leading me here and there? To the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, and I followed. I followed.
He raised the metal rod. Everything after that was like it happened in slow motion. Shurik charging at us. me pushing Lena out of the way, the rod slowly arcing towards my head, my hand with the flashlight going up. Following all that, complete darkness, rapid breathing, blood hammering in my temples, silence, dreadful, heavy silence merging with the darkness. I moved my hand trying to find the wall when I felt someone's touch.
Don't be afraid.
I heard a familiar voice near me. Where are you damn lunatic? I shouted.
He left.
Which way did he go? Where to? Lena's voice didn't sound too calm, but certainly it didn't sound like it should in such circumstances.
Calm down.
She hugged me tenderly and pressed her body against mine. I tried to gather my senses to recover my breath to adapt to the darkness. What should we do next?
You have a gun.
Well, who do I shoot?
It's loaded with a flare.
She might be right. I took the gun from my belt, pointed it to the side, and fired. Ooh, spooky. The room was illuminated by a bright red light. The flare lying in the corner looked like a firework or a sparkler.
Let's go quickly. It won't burn for too long.
Where to? Lena pointed to the second door. It wasn't hard to open it, and we headed into the darkness. The flare burned more dimly with every second. I stumbled with every step, even fell down a couple of times, but didn't slow my pace. If it goes out... Finally, we saw light in front of us and came to a ladder leading to a grating in the ceiling. The flare hissed and went out. Thank God. Turned out that we were right under the statue of Genda. The grating was rather sturdy, but we managed to open it after breaking the bolt with the flashlight. After reaching the surface, I collapsed on the grass, exhausted. That was terrible. Lena sat next to me. Just dreadful. By the time I didn't give a damn about this world, the camp, the 410 bus, or my previous life. The strangest and nastiest thing was that there was nothing supernatural in these events. Shurik went crazy, insane, nothing strange about it. I would have too in his position. Lena patted my head tenderly and smiled.
It's all over now.
I don't know. There's a crazy pioneer in the woods. You could even say a maniac killer.
I think he's gonna be alright.
Alright? I'm not sure about that.
The most important thing is that we're okay.
She still smiled. How can you be so calm?
I told you before that I have nothing to be afraid of when I'm with you.
Indeed, I might have saved Lena and myself back there. But it was only by chance, nothing more. If Shurik had been swifter... or crazier. Thanks for the compliment.
You're welcome.
Though we still should have stayed here in the first place.
You're probably right.
She said calmly. I got really sleepy. Because of stress, of exhaustion, of how late at night it was. We should go to sleep. But I'd have to stand up and walk to the leader's cabin. I wasn't ready for that. My eyes closed just for a moment. Stars looked down at me from the sky. Thousands of them, even millions. Now their light didn't seem to be so distant and cold. On the contrary, they twinkled to me, as if whispering among themselves, telling merry fairy tales in eager competition. About a galaxy far, far away and violet, fluffy piglets. About mysterious asteroid belts where ships have disappeared. About a fearless starship captain and his brave crew. About exceptional treasures and unreachable peaks of a planet on the edge of the universe. I wonder, is that a dream? I lifted myself a little and realized that my head was in Lena's lap. Did I sleep long? I asked in confusion, but didn't rush to get up.
I don't know. I don't have a watch.
She laughed. Approximately.
Well, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay then. I lay down again, feeling nice and calm like never before. The events of the night were becoming distant, as if I was starting to forget them, like the story the stars were telling me.
Shurik has come back.
What? I jumped on my feet instantly.
There he is, sleeping on the bench.
Lena pointed to the benches in surprise. And what are you?
You were sleeping so peacefully that I didn't want to wake you up.
I felt a shiver of fear, because such behavior was not just strange. It was not just inappropriate. It scared me more than Shurik's insanity in the dungeon. A lunatic who half-hour ago tried to kill us arrives, lies on a nearby bench and falls asleep, and she just sits here?
Nothing to worry about. He just seemed a bit off.
Lena got confused and blushed.
He walked unsteadily and didn't look towards us, and if I'd made a noise...
She was about to cry. Okay, don't worry. There was some logic to her words. She probably did the right thing. In any case, we had to interrogate Shurik thoroughly. I jumped up, walked quickly to the bench she was sleeping on, and slapped him.
Ouch.
He woke up at once.
What the hell?
What are you doing, you bastard?
What?
Shurik stared at me with a scared and moreover sane look. What was that all about down there?
What? Where?
In the dungeon? In the mine? In the bomb shelter? Did you go completely nuts?
I don't understand.
He looked around.
Why am I here?
And where should you be, in your opinion? Oh wait, I know. You should be in an asylum.
I went to the old camp in the morning for the spare parts and then...
Do you remember anything after that?
Lena asked after walking up to us.
Yes, and I...
Don't pretend, I said calmly and sat next to him. It really looked like he wasn't lying, though.
I don't understand anything. It's unscientific.
Who cares? Don't think that I trust you.
Memory loss can't occur just...
Shurik talked to himself, mumbled something, not paying any attention to us.
Let's go.
Lena said quietly. Shall we just leave him here?
He's not in his right mind. He has to sleep.
It's dangerous to leave the psycho alone. He may strangle electronic with an induction coil in the night.
It's going to be all right, trust me.
I had no reason not to trust her. However, I didn't have any reason to trust her either. On the other hand, who cares now? I want to fall asleep as quickly as possible. Okay. We left Shurik, who was still mumbling something to himself.
We're here.
What? Where?
I have to go further on.
Lena smiled. I hadn't thought about anything all the way here, just followed her, and hadn't noticed that we'd come to Olga Demetrina's cabin. Yeah.
Thank you for today.
There's nothing to thank me for. It's just not good that we came back alive. We'll see what Shurik has to say tomorrow.
Thanks anyway.
She said mysteriously and averted her eyes. You're welcome.
Well, it's time for me to go.
Lena quickly turned around and walked quickly in the direction of her cabin. I suddenly had a thought that something about that was a bit off, not quite right. After all that had happened, well, it's time for me to go. Usually goes differently in such situations, doesn't it? I have no idea what I expected, though. Exhaustion hit me again. Walking with difficulty, I entered the cabin. The leader was sitting on my bed. Semyon. She started to talk sadly. Where have you been? Well, I... Prepared for a scolding, I didn't expect that reaction. I went to look for Shurik. Alone? I totally went alone. Yeah, alone. So... What about Shurik? It looks like Olga Nemetrino was really worried about the fate of the lost pioneer. What's so strange about that? The leader can treat her work lightly, but it doesn't seem that she's a heartless person. He's okay. As okay as he could be in such a situation. That's good. And go to sleep now. Wait, but... She turned the light out quickly, showing that the conversation's over and I couldn't ask anything. Though should I? Ask why she didn't scold me? Still, Lena. What happened today? My thoughts slowed their pace before stopping completely. Hello everyone, this is my third time attempting to record this section. The first time I had an audio problem. It, screeched in the audio, and I don't know what happened at all. And the second time, I think my laptop overheated. And I was almost done with the route, so I was pretty upset about that. Third time's the charm, is what they say, I suppose. But this means that I'm not actually sure what dialogue I've seen. I get confused pretty easily. So I'm gonna be way too scared to attempt to hit the skip button in the case that I accidentally run over dialogue I've already seen. So when I edit this video, there might be dialogue we've already seen that gets left in, and hopefully I don't cut out anything that needed to be seen. Anyway, here we go, into Lena's good end. Let me go with you.
Let's go.
Okay, that's fine. Slavia grabbed the second basket and ventured to the opposite side of the island. Well, let's go.
Yeah.
Lena smiled. Just pay attention. Don't leave a single berry behind.
You too.
So it was harvest time. Indeed, the strawberries here were delicious. I could probably eat them all if I didn't stop myself in time. Despite being wild grown, the berries were close to garden ones in size and had a rich red color, so it's clear that our visit here wasn't in vain. Lena followed me closely as we had only one basket for the both of us. I felt like a real mushroom picker examining each shrub and carefully pawing the grass.
Well, you're much better than me.
Am I? Frankly, I'm not even counting them. What do you mean much better than you? Like finding the berries or actually picking them? 'Cause I feel like picking them should be the easiest part.
Yeah, right you are.
The basket was already half full. You must enjoy nature, right?
I do.
Finally answered something, without being vague. The bright sun rays pierced the treetops and blinded me for a second. I sat down on the ground and leaned against a tree. Still, it's so beautiful here. Lena sat down next to me, so close that our elbows touched.
Yeah.
We just sat and enjoyed the moment. It seemed like time stood still. The wind gently shook the tree leaves. Some bugs lazily hopped around the grass, and splashes of sunlight played on the faraway water surface. Lena put her head on my shoulder. I mean, you don't have to grab her by the waist, but okay. I was surprised at first, but then I heard her regular breathing and thought that it's just a matter of course. Probably she felt drowsy and wanted to take a quick nap. I just sat there and didn't think of anything for a few minutes. But then words started crossing my mind with ultrasonic speed. Lena. So close. Sleeping. So warm. So gentle. Feelings. Ah, feelings. I gazed at her. She had such a serene, such a tranquil look on her face that it seemed that right now she's not here, but in some kind of better world. I don't know what would have happened the next moment if I didn't hear the voice of Slavia. Semyon, Lena. I shook my head from side to side a few times to come to my senses. Lena started to wake up. Yeah, I would too if you start shaking your head. She was using your head as a pillow. She opened her eyes and gave an empty look. Have a nice dream?
Huh?
Suddenly realizing that she had dozed off leaning on my shoulder, Lena blushed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine. Slavia came over to us, so Lena rushed to get up. So, how many have you got? I sighed.
That's not a lot.
Her basket was filled with strawberries to the brim. Man, she did all of the work. Well, it's enough anyway. It's time to get back. I grabbed the basket and we headed back to the boat. Oh no, Alisa! What are you doing? I ran over to the fallen girl and tried to figure out if she was alive at all. Are you completely out of your mind? If you want me to leave, to shut up, or to do anything else, fine. But this is turning into a complete madhouse. Maybe you need a straitjacket so nobody else will get injured. Lena stood clenching her fist. You could even break your hand with such a blow.
You don't understand anything.
The tears welled up, flowing down her face, and she fled from the square. It seemed to me that I could still hear Lena sobbing while I was bringing Alisa around. Finally, she came back to consciousness. You alive? Are you okay? Alisa moved her jaw from left to right. I'll live. I helped her up. I told you about her. Well, that doesn't matter now. You need to get to the infirmary. It's too late for the infirmary. I'll have a good night's rest, and in the morning I'll go there. Okay. Then I'll go with you. I can't refuse, Alisa said, trying to give me a smile. All the way we kept silent. She was probably not really able to talk, and I couldn't find the right words to say. All of this was a real shock for me. I found myself a mere spectator of a drama in which I just took on the main part. After the door closed behind Alisa, I stood for a long time and looked at her cabin. What should I do after all this? Fatigue overcame me and I had to sleep. I think Lena is now in a state in which she is unlikely to adequately assess reality. Completely broken, I fell down onto the bed and drifted to sleep. I had absolutely no desire to wake Lena up. It was an unspeakable pleasure just watching how she sleeps. People say that the sleep reveals the true face of a person. I heard a legend that some ancient civilization had a custom. Before getting married, a woman watches her fiancé sleeping for 3 nights. That is incredibly weird. And then she decided whether to marry him or not. What? Well, why? What is sleeping, like, why would watching somebody sleep tell you whether or not, like, make the deciding factor? It's just like, oh, they talk too much in their sleep. Oh, they fart too much in their sleep. No, I can't do this. I'm sorry, we're not compatible. Oh no, you snore. What if you just don't move? Like you're almost dead. That's how you sleep. Ah, perfect. Bearing that in mind, I could confidently say that Lena's face showed nothing but goodness, kindness, and childlike naivete. Could this really be the girl that knocked Alisa out yesterday? Well, whatever it may be, everything's already happened. I almost said already opened, and I don't know why. And I've already seen Lena like that. The humility for the first few days, the hysterics back there on the island, the rage at the square yesterday, her passion today. How can one single human cope with so many opposing personality traits? Might it be the case that she really has a double, triple, even quadruple split personality? I don't know how much time I spent just watching Lena sleeping. It might have been a couple of minutes, or it might have been a couple of hours. Finally, she awakened.
Good morning.
Lena smiled tenderly.
Come here.
She rose and hugged me. I didn't resist and plopped down on the bed.
You're so wonderful.
She whispered in my ear, kissing my neck. You too. But my voice hesitated.
Want to do it again?
I forgot that when I do Lena's voice, I lean closer to the microphone. She asked playfully. Hold on. I moved her away gently. You know, all this is anything but simple. When we just met, you seemed to be one person, then you seemed to be another, and today... Yeah, like, she was so adamant on throwing Semyon to Alisa, and then all of a sudden she's all like, so I told Olga that we have something to do, and so she left us, and now it's just me and you. And we're gonna stay in this camp forever and ever. And it's just like, wait, so, like, what are your feelings? I'm so confused. Now I can't understand at all who you really are. And yet again, what you did to Alisa.
Her again.
Lena covered up with a blanket and turned away.
Didn't you like what we did? Want to do it with her too? Now I won't hold you back. Come on, compare us. I'll leave you her address. You can tell me who's better, or we can have a threesome.
I don't understand what your problem is. You're just ignoring the issue. She sounded like she wasn't talking about me or her. Like she was talking about complete strangers. Oh, there you go again. I sighed. Throughout today, you should have realized that the last person I would think about now would be Alisa.
Which is funny because technically you are thinking about her right now.
Okay, you're right.
She turned to me, smiled, and hugged me tightly. I don't know what to say. Last video, I did mention that this is a bigger emotional whiplash than Alisa was, and I only feel slightly bad that I kept ragging on Alisa when Lena's the one that's making me just go crazy over this entire issue. Hold on. I still have to understand.
Why?
I can't just simply... And yes, I do care, that's why I really need to know who you really are.
I am just me.
She answered in the same languid voice. My brakes started to break from all these emotions. I have to calm down somehow. I jumped to my feet and moved across to sit on the opposite bed.
Fine.
Lena said disappointedly and started to get dressed. I'm not asking for much. Just a few answers to a few questions.
Later, it's time to depart.
She interrupted me impassively. What? Where are we going?
What do you mean, where? Back to town, of course.
But you told me...
Well, I might have withheld something. In fact, I persuaded Olga Dmitrievna that we still have some extremely urgent matters here, and will come later.
Olga sucks. What important matters do a singular boy and a singular girl have in an empty camp? Nothing. How would we get to town then?
By bus, of course.
There are no buses here. I grinned.
What do you mean, no buses? Of course there are. Route 410.
I didn't know whether I should believe it or not. Oops. I didn't know whether I should believe it or not. The situation seemed to be getting out of control, but I wouldn't argue. Okay, I managed, cautiously.
Come on, get packed. Meet me at the square in 10 minutes.
Okay. I gave up asking and left the cabin. Frankly speaking, I had almost nothing to pack. I just tossed my winter clothes into a bag and headed to the square. Lena was already waiting for me there with a gym bag on her shoulder. You don't seem to carry a lot of baggage. Think she does, in fact, carry a lot of baggage.
It's just enough.
She smiled. Let me carry it.
Please do.
Although her bag seemed almost weightless, a bit of chivalry never hurt anyone. We were walking and Lena was constantly telling jokes, anecdotes, funny stories, and never stopped laughing. Now I'd really lost touch with the person next to me. Is she the one I met a week ago, or the one I saw for the first time this morning? You know, sure would have been a good idea to think about these questions before you did the do with Lena. It just makes you seem really shallow. When we reached the bus stop, I took out my mobile phone and checked the time. Surprisingly, there was still some power left. You have a really good phone. It was almost 11 p.m. Isn't it a bit late for buses?
Oh, what is that?
Asked Lena curiously. Just a toy.
Take it, it's a gift.
Thank you.
She smiled and took the phone.
What can you play on it?
You'll work it out yourself later, it's not that hard. Cool, thanks, Semyon. Anyway, a mobile phone is totally useless here. What a great gift. Technically useless. We waited for about half an hour and Lena just kept talking and talking. Well, I must admit that I found her stories amusing and I felt comfortable with her, but what about the bus? So what about? I didn't finish the sentence as I saw the glimmer of headlights in the distance.
Ah, here it is.
Lena exclaimed enthusiastically. The bus was slowly carrying us away from the Semyon pioneer camp. I just wanted to believe that we'd never ever go back. The darkness beyond the window prevented us from seeing the road, the woods or the fields. Actually, it might be the case that they're all long gone and we're flying through a void towards the unknown. Anyway, I couldn't care less for the surroundings. I just kept listening to Lena. Perhaps she had said more words today than she had throughout her past life. You know, I interrupted her at last. I still don't understand.
What exactly?
She smiled. How come you could be so hesitant, so humble at first, unable to string together 2 words, and then, like this?
Is that important?
Yeah. I mean, we could just take it as, oh, you're finally comfortable, but, like, you also frick-fracked, so you are more than just comfortable. Yeah, for me it is.
Well,
she took a deep breath before answering.
You see, I've always been the way you saw me the first time we met. I was like that in public. I wasn't able to live as I wanted to since childhood, so I put on a mask.
She went silent.
Although, let's not go too deep into that.
Lena laughed and cuddled my arm, pressing her body tightly against me. Okay, I get it. It was probably very hard for her to discuss it, indeed. Anyway, I got a lot even from such a short explanation. But still. Can I be sure you won't turn into that one again? You won't retreat into your shell, won't surrender to your anger and rage?
That depends on you.
Cool, thanks. That's not something you want to hear when talking about somebody's anger management. Lena smiled slyly. It was just now that I realized that I'm playing a high-stakes game. On the one hand, I've spent a week in this obscure world just trying to find some answers. I have nothing to my name and nowhere to return to, damn it. On the other hand, there's this girl who obviously matters so much to me. I almost didn't need to think about whether I had feelings for Lena. I just wanted to be by her side, look at her, listen to her voice. I liked her the way she was. I assured myself that this is it, the real Lena is in front of me. Or is she? And now, when these thoughts came back about my life, my mysterious appearance in an 80s pioneer camp, it's just not the time for such thoughts. I feel good right now being close to her. I don't want to return anywhere. I don't want any answers. I don't want to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Honestly, Semyon just sounds like somebody who's been brainwashed or has Stockholm Syndrome, which is kind of like being brainwashed. He's completely ignoring the fact that she acted the way she did, which, I mean, there's no real excuse for the way she acted. That was just too much. He didn't even really interact with Alisa. Like, there was the one happened
the one event of seeing Alisa without a top on, but she was like out in public, whipped off her top or whatever. Well, I mean, Uliana did that. And technically, wasn't Semyon the one who was there first, and for whatever reason he hid? I think, was he butt naked? I don't remember. Semyon was just an idiot, and he should have just left, butt naked or not. And because there wasn't like a lot of interactions, it just came off weird with the way Lena acted. And so it just seems a lot like Lena has anger management or some underlying issues that would be better if she got help than whatever just happened with this route. The whole sleeping with her, like, Semyon he just sounds so possessed, I suppose. Like I've mentioned before, this route, like, is really pushing the thoughts into Semyon's head. Like, it's all putting it in there rather than it seeming like he's actually thinking for himself. Because every time he mentions being with Lena, it's so weird. It's just like, yeah, whatever she just did, I don't really care. I love her so much, and she's so beautiful, and just being in her presence that's all I want to do. But I don't think he was like that with Alisa. With Alisa, it seemed more like he actually had his own thoughts, opposed to this one. I feel good right now being close to her. I don't want to return anywhere. I don't want any answers. I don't want to think about what's going to happen tomorrow. If it's up to me, then I just want to believe that you'll always be the way you are now. For this is the way I love you. This is also a terrible thing to say, because people change. And that's how it always is with love. You, at first, are just filled with it, and you think everything about them is the greatest thing. Like, they're the hottest thing on demand. And then later on, those feelings are gonna go away, and, you'll probably find that the things that you thought were the greatest thing in the world ends up being not so great. So Semyon's like super Twitter-pated right now.
Then I'll keep being this way as long as we're together.
I'll keep wearing a mask. She hugged me even tighter. I don't know how long we've been on the road, but Lena's chatter gradually started to quiet down. She put her head on my shoulder, but was still telling me a story about her cat getting into sleeping medicine, getting dizzy, and wreaking havoc. I slowly started to doze off myself. But still, why did you hit Alisa? She looked at me closely with a serious expression on her face.
I always hated that bitch.
Okay, that doesn't really explain anything. Lena laughed loudly and nuzzled into my shoulder. I was really hoping for an actual explanation, and I didn't get one at all. I desperately tried not to fall asleep. It's unknown what's awaiting there after the bus's next turn. It might be a new life waiting for me, or it might be the end of this fairy tale, and I'll be buried in the coffin of the peeling walls and ceilings of my old apartment. But it was a losing battle. Morpheus had summoned legions of monsters under the command of fatigue, exhaustion, desolation, and uncertainty. I had no chance to win the battle against these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and I drifted off to sleep.
Wake up.
Consciousness slowly returned to me. It's like I'm falling from a cliff so high that clouds are drifting nearby. The ground is coming closer, but I'm not afraid that I'll die. My fall slows down and my body is smoothly immersed into warm ether. I opened my eyes.
You'll sleep through your whole life like that?
Lena looked at me seriously. What? We're there already?
Where's there?
I looked around. A bench, the square, Genda. But how? I was on the bus going to the district center.
Why are you looking at me as if you've seen a ghost?
But why am I still here? For a second I felt terrible fear. Will I never get out of this place? We were on the bus together.
On the bus?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yes, yesterday, don't you remember? Lena started thinking.
Yesterday. I don't remember anything like that. Maybe you just had a bad dream.
Considering that all that has happened already seems like a hallucination, this must be a dream within a dream then. Well, let's take it slowly. I tried to think logically. The session ended yesterday. All pioneers left, but we stayed. And then we took a bus and headed to the district center. Lena surely looked perplexed.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding anyone.
Today's the last day.
Wait. So how much time have I spent here? Lena started to count off on her fingers.
Looks like 7 days.
Not 8?
It's 7, definitely 7.
I gave an exhausted sigh and covered my face with my hands. Well, that's another riddle in the long list of this camp's mysteries. Well, okay. Though I have a feeling that we won't manage to leave today either.
Why?
6th sense.
You're acting a bit strange today.
I suppose I have my reasons.
Want to tell me?
I gazed at her attentively. I do. Sure, why not? When I had a real chance to break free from this camp, everything failed. So what do I have to lose now? Now where do I start?
Start from the beginning.
Yeah, of course. Well, I was born, I studied, married. Well, okay, I haven't gotten married yet.
You still have time?
Yes, but... well, in few words, like, I'm not from this world. From the look she gave me, it was clear she didn't understand me at all. I came here accidentally, even I don't know how.
So what does your world look like?
Lena asked seriously. It's virtually the same, but 20 years ahead of your world.
Do you already have spaceflight?
Well, if it comes to that, you have it as well. However, we haven't made any great achievements in that field yet.
Sounds interesting.
I was unable to tell if Lena was taking me seriously or just pretending to do so. I used to live in a completely different place as well, far away to the north, judging from the landscape, in a big city.
I've never been to the big cities.
Maybe that's for the best.
Will you show me your house?
It seemed like she was taking this conversation as seriously as I was. Well, I'm not even sure it exists in this world.
Oh, come on.
Lena pouted. Well, sure, I will.
So how did you get here?
One evening, I took a bus, Route 410, and woke up here. I don't know anything more than that.
The 410 route? That's the one that stops just outside the camp.
Yeah, but my 410 travels in another place and time.
Are you planning to return?
Lena said, and I noticed a note of unhappiness in her voice. I have no idea how to.
And if you knew?
You're asking tough questions.
What's wrong?
Nothing but... You see, I only just recently started to adjust being here. The first hours in this camp were such a shock for me that, I don't know.
It's okay. You still have time to think about it.
Time to think? It seems that even if Lena believed me, she considers this whole situation just a typical inconvenience and nothing more. Anyway, it's not up to me. Possibly even if I do want to stay. You see, the one who brought me here can take me back as well.
I believe that any event in a person's life has a reason. Therefore, you are here for some reason.
Maybe. This Lena feels very different from the other Lena.
And if you haven't returned?
She's a lot more willing to accept that he's possibly gonna leave. Other Lena, any mention of leaving would like trigger her to start like arguing with him.
And if you haven't returned, you must be needed here.
Well, I can't rule out that interpretation. Hey, time to pack your stuff. The camp leader's voice sounded from afar.
Hear that?
I don't have much to pack.
But I do. So meet you near the bus.
Would you like me to help?
Thanks, but there's no need.
Lena smiled and ran off towards her cabin. I remained sitting on the bench trying to cope with the shock. My thoughts were still in chaos, one theory replacing another. On one hand, me being unable to get out of this camp isn't all that odd compared to me finding myself here in the first place, but... What now? What am I supposed to do? Is there any chance that I can leave camp if I try again? Anyway, what's the point in being nervous? By now I know perfectly well that absolutely nothing is up to me. Maybe I just have to sit back and enjoy the ride. I couldn't help smiling. Especially now when I have an additional reason not to be in any hurry to leave. And he's just stuck in a loop. Go on the bus, appear on the bench, go on the bus, appear on the bench. And that reason is Lena. Maybe she's right and I'm here for some reason. In the end, even if I can narrow down the possible explanations for my situation to a reasonable minimum, there would still be 1,001. And if I keep exhausting myself analyzing them, I'll just go mad. Maybe it's time I make a choice. Maybe this world is not so bad after all. Especially since for the first time in a long time, I have something to live for. It's still a vague something, but still I have it. It exists. And now I have the power not to simply hold it, but to develop it into something bigger. With such thoughts, I stood up and started walking to Olga Demetrina's cabin, in order to pack my humble belongings and leave the Sovyonok Pioneer Camp forever. I just noticed that the arrows on the sides, instead of being leaves, they're back to how they were in the beginning. So does this mean that this world that Semyon's in is now his world? It might not be the present day that he was in, but it's his now. It'd be real mean if this world decided, you know what, you don't have an identity or parents. You're just here. You exist now in this world. One may think it's strange, and that's exactly how it seemed to me. But eventually we reached the district center. I eventually got tired in the bus and fell asleep. When I woke up, I ran up and down the aisle of the bus, gasping for air. But soon I realized that this long week is over. At last I managed to break free from the camp. All the time I spent there seemed like so much longer than 7 days. And now everything is over. Soon after that, events moved with frightening speed. No time left for self-analysis or seeking answers. Moreover, from time to time I completely forgot about the camp. Like anyone who found themselves in a completely strange environment, I was completely lost. I had no papers, not even a simple birth certificate, and no skills to earn a living. Professions such as computer specialist or call center operator were not in demand. Lena returned to her normal life. She had to graduate from school and get ready to enter university. The pioneer camp was in the south of the USSR, just as I'd assumed. Lena lived in a town with a population of about 100,000. It was easy to get there by bus from the district center. There was nothing special about the town. One big factory, rows of 5-story houses, wooden huts on the outskirts, a grocery store that closed at 7 p.m., and a supermarket, a true Eden for a shopaholic, with choices including rubber winter shoes, women's sheepskin coats, and men's... what is that? I want to say musquash. You know what? Let's see if I can find a pronunciation.
Musquash.
Musquash? So I was pretty close. I just said squash too. Oops. Just opening everything on my phone now. Got them hats. Before, I would already be trying to run away from a place like this, but now it was my home. Cases of starvation were rare in 20th century Europe. I managed to find a job. I was employed as a turner's assistant in a factory, and was also given a room in a hostel. You know, the moment he mentioned a factory, I knew he was going to end up working in the factory. Over time, this initially difficult and strange job started to bring a certain satisfaction. Partially, of course, that came from having the ability to buy food. Time passed and I climbed up a career ladder, becoming the head of a whole shift. My colleagues were amazed at my talent and persistence, and so was I. Lena graduated from school, and I spent several nights with a calculator designing diagrams of expenses and income, and I at last made up my mind to propose to Lena. I don't remember now if it took a lot of time for her to think, if she suggested we sign a marriage contract or if she protested because of the lack of dowry, but in a short time both of us moved into a communal apartment room near the factory that cost 2/3 of my salary. Thanks to free Soviet education for everyone, or maybe thanks to my wife's persistence, eventually I became a part-time student at the local Polytechnic University. At first, I protested, saying that a fair proletarian had no need to act like the lousy intellectuals, but then I came to a conclusion that a diploma would make my life easier. It wasn't difficult to study thanks to my knowledge from my last attempt at receiving a higher education. Time passed and the country started to change. Of course I knew it would happen, but still, the changes came out of the blue. You could compare it to being caught in an avalanche in the mountains. You can prepare all you like, but it will still bury you anyway. The factory was privatized and then closed down. Whoa, I haven't seen the little definition thingy pop up in a long time. Moonlighting as a private driver in the Kopeka? Rattle trap I inherited from my father-in-law was not really a profitable business. Russian car. Very cheap and old. I was even ready to apply for a camp leader position in Semyon, but Lena's distant relative died and left us a one-room apartment somewhere in central Russia. Oh no. After a family council, we decided to move. We greeted the early 90s in a cramped kitchen in a Kruskovka. It's a low-cost, concrete-paneled 3 to 5 story building developed in the USSR during the reign of Nikita Khrushchev. Watching Swan Lake. Thanks to random side jobs, I saved some money and and we decided to move to a bigger city, and of course I chose my birthplace. We decided to sell the flat and use the money to invest in business. For some time we lived in luxury, buying mink fur coats and expensive foreign cars, dining in restaurants and taking trips to other countries. Like many others during that time, I had the luck to somehow make it big, starting from the bottom. My business was construction material retail. It was a profitable market at the time because people made excessive money that they wanted to invest in luxurious homes. Maybe such life could have gone on, but the 90s were called rakish for some reason. After encountering rackets and corruption, I was left with an empty refrigerator, an empty wallet, and the bitter taste of blood in my mouth. That was the time I tried to recall my man from the future status. Betting places that were impossible in the Soviet era popped up all over, and I rushed to gamble on everything I knew. However, I faced new disappointments, as matches were won by completely different teams. Even the 1994 World Cup champion was in Brazil. When I was just watching football on TV, everything went as it should, but whenever I spent the last of my money to make a bet, even underdogs began phenomenally beating favorites. As well as that, I tried to pursue the career of a political advisor. However, you don't get accepted into a high position like that without special connections, or anything that would make people interested. I don't know how long I would have gone through this torment if not for an event which changed everything. Me and Lena had a child. In a hurry, I started to search for any possible way to earn enough to provide for my family. I remembered some of my father's old friends, and through them, by pretending to be a distant relative of myself, I gained a place as a junior data analyst in a bank. At the same time, I made a new attempt to obtain my degree, or to be precise, to finish it. Time passed slowly. The money was just enough to fill our stomachs. I almost lived at work for days, trying to find some time for exams. Lena stayed at home with the baby. That was when I started writing. I remembered it as if it was yesterday. It was just after midnight. I was sitting in the kitchen in front of my old worn-out i386, willingly killing monsters in Doom 2. I wanted to sleep so badly, but computer games at least slightly distracted me from the infinity of dull days. When I completed another level, I was suddenly immersed in thoughts about everything I'd gone through during the last few years. It was all too much for one person. That's when I decided to write down everything that had happened to me. I launched the word processor, wrote down about 200 words with the clear intent of continuing it tomorrow. However, I didn't remember it tomorrow, nor even a week later. After a month later, Lena, who was typing something on the computer, reminded me of my unfinished book. I reread it and deleted it, terrified. At that moment, I started to doubt if I could ever do it. After all, it was an entire epic novel, and I wasn't even able to string together 2 words. In addition, it's not easy to write about myself. Creative work put on the back burner for now. I celebrated the arrival of the year 2000 as a certified specialist with department head duties. While moving to another apartment, I found my old computer among the trash that was to be thrown away, and I remembered my intention of writing a book about my life. I laughed. How stupid. However, after some time I opened my laptop and made a sort of draft of a short story about a young man without a definite occupation or aspirations, who finds himself on a different planet. The style, orthography, and punctuation, as well as the idea itself, were matched well to such a silly plot. I showed the story to my wife. She laughed but said that it was well written and advised me to continue. About a year later, the drawer designed for holding my literary works was full. The drawer, wow. I found that very odd because I was spending entire days at work, sometimes even during holidays, and I tried to spend all my available free time with my family. However, that's what happened. Around that time, I decided to publish my short stories. As with any other beginner's work, most of mine were rejected, but a couple of them were accepted, including my first work. I was over the moon. Of course I was paid nothing, but my works will be read, meaning that someone will find them interesting. And then modern Semyon finds it and he's just like, what? It's the forever alone Semyon that finds it. Time passed. We had a second baby now. During my spare time, I slowly wrote a novel. No, not about my life or the pioneer camp. I decided not to touch upon those themes ever again. Everything that happened years ago seemed to be the will of God, whose charity should not be tempted. Who can tell what would have happened if I hadn't woken up in a bus near the Soviet camp gates? A year later, the novel was completed. After I'd annoyed almost all known publishers, I managed to reach an agreement with a small company. The editor, an elderly man wearing a ragged tweed jacket and thick spectacles which almost rubbed against his magnificent gray mustache, told me, "Your level is average, young man. Average, yes, but the idea itself is interesting. Interesting, yes. Well, you need more practice and, more reading, yes. Read some freaking books." I remembered these words for the rest of my life. I dispensed the copies that were sent to me as a part of my royalty agreement among my friends and colleagues. Lena, who read my novel only after it was published, told me that she really liked it, mostly out of desire not to upset me, I guess.
Oh, it's good.
Time passed. The calendar days were unstoppably approaching that day when I was pulled out of my usual world and thrown into this life, starting from the mysterious pioneer camp and now ending up here. Now I'm a successful writer, at least according to the number of copies my books have sold. I have a wonderful wife and 2 children. My life had turned 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Sometimes I don't know how to read numbers. Midnight tonight is the start of something new. Tomorrow's the day that I was awaiting for so many years. I don't know how he was able to remember the exact date. I never remember dates. I'm terrible at that.
What are you thinking about? Oh my God.
I opened my eyes and saw Lena. Lena looks so dead. Her eyes are so scary. She put a cup of tea on the table near an armchair. Firewood was gently crackling in the fireplace, and a snowstorm was roaring outside. I wrapped myself in a plaid blanket and looked at Lena. Do you know what day it is?
No, what day?
Do you remember what I told you back there in the camp?
No.
No wonder. During all these years, I'd never brought up the topic of my mysterious arrival in this world. Do you remember how I told you that I'm not from this world? Lena paused.
Well, something like that, yes.
So today is the day when many years ago I got on the 410 bus and woke up at that pioneer camp.
So it's an anniversary?
Lena smiled. Yeah, sort of.
Is it a sad celebration for you?
No, not at all.
And I remember almost nothing about that time.
Maybe that's for the best. I added some firewood to the fire and took the mug from the table. Maybe I'll write a novel. You'll read it and remember.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Lena's expression became serious. Indeed, I once promised myself that I would never write about it. Maybe it's not. After all, everything that happened is just for us.
That's exactly what I think.
I sighed and looked at the fire. You know, life is like a candle. Someone's got a short one, someone's got a long one, and it can burn out at any moment.
Then our life is like this fireplace.
Yes, perhaps. I looked at her and smiled. I'll sleep for a while longer. Lena kissed me and fixed her gaze on the fire in a dreamy manner. My eyes closed and my whole reality compressed itself down to the crackling of the firewood. I started falling slowly somewhere far away. No, it was not a dream, more like warm ether, gently enveloping my entire existence. My little sister rags on me every time instead of saying enveloping and I say enveloping. I can't help it. You look at the word, it looks like enveloping. Okay, so that was way better, a way better ending than I was expecting. It was a lot more detailed than Alisa's good end, which for me is odd. Like, I can understand the Forever Alone Semyon one being short, or not as detailed, because, you know, he's alone and there's nothing interesting. It's just, oh no, everything's sad. The camp, was it real? Who knows? With Alyssa's one, it was at the very end that you see her again, and then that was it. I guess you could say, he was inspired by the fact that Alisa was into music back at the camp, and he grew up from there. And then he met her. But this one was like a summary of Semyon's entire life. It definitely seems like that the endgame Alisa was a different Alisa from the entire thing, though. Like, bad end Alisa, that was just her through the entire camp. Or maybe, did I say Alisa or Lena? Oh my god. Every time I talk about these two, it starts to get jumbled in my head for some reason. Here's a theory. What if Lena, endgame Lena, and bad game Lena were fighting for dominance before the whole thing, the route divergence? They're just fighting for dominance, and then depending what you get is the Lena that you get. Because bad end Lena is very, like, what's the word, volatile? Yeah. Lena was, bad end Lena specifically, I suppose, was very volatile. And then when they get on the bus and then he goes to the world ends up, I guess, solidifying, and she ends up being way nicer. He mentions the possibility of leaving and she takes it way better. But it's nice to know that the good ending did end up being way better. It's good to know that it ended up being more satisfying. 'Cause I was gonna be real upset if we got that bad end and then it just cut short. That was just it. Oh, Semyon's stuck in the 80s, and now he has to live that way with no birth certificate or nothing. I can't believe the world pulled him into this place and did all this crazy stuff, but it didn't have the decency to leave him like some sort of family or birth certificate of some sort. It is just like, here you go. You have a wife. Are you happy? That's what you get. That's it. Don't say that I didn't do nothing for you. And then the world's like, bye. Enjoy yourself. I was worried for a second when he mentioned that they ended up losing money, like falling on hard times. I was worried that it was just gonna be like this very bittersweet good ending instead of an actual good ending, but it ended well. I think it would have been cute if we got to see like more of a family photo. So him, Lena, and the kids instead of just him and Lena, but I get what I get. It was cute either way. Anyway, I hope that you also feel good about this ending, especially if you saw the bad ending, because that was no fun at all. That was so sad. I was honestly expecting that Semyon was gonna get stabbed, and it's so much more different when you as a player get killed, because it's just like, yeah, whatever. It happens. But then when something like that happens, it's just like, never mind. I need to go look at puppies for a little while. I hope you enjoyed this video and this route. Next route we will be doing, I kind of want to do Uliana. Yeah, I think we'll do Uliana, then it's gonna be Slavia, and then Miku, then the mystery girl, who I'm pretty sure is the cat girl, and then the harem one. And then we'll be done with this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still have 5 routes to go, so there's a lot still to get through. Well then, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a good day and a good night.
Bye-bye.